they silenced the ring general. And nobody is talking about how dirty it really was. Let me say that again. Seth Rollins, with a group of masked men standing behind him like some kind of underground crime lord, walked into Monday Night Raw and didn't just beat Gunther, he dismantled him. He humiliated him. He left him laying in the center of that ring like a broken statue of everything WWE told us was untouchable. And the crowd? The crowd went insane. But here's what nobody is saying out loud: was this the most calculated, cold-blooded hit job in WWE history? Because I've been watching this business for over 2 decades, and what Seth Rollins pulled off on Raw was not just a wrestling angle. This was a message. This was a statement. This was the kind of moment that splits the locker room, divides the fan base, and rewrites the entire power structure of Monday Night Raw overnight. So if you think you know the full story, you don't. Stay right here. Because by the end of this video, you are going to be furious, you are going to be hyped, and you are going to have a very strong opinion. Drop it in the comments. I want to hear every single one of them. Let's set the scene. For months Gunther has been doing what Gunther does. Walking out to that ring with that cold, arrogant composure, that bone-crushing chop that echoes through every arena like a thunderclap, and that look on his face that says, without words, none of you are on my level. And honestly, he was right. Gunther was operating on a completely different frequency from everyone else on the Raw roster. He didn't just win matches, he made grown men crumble. He made veterans question their careers. He made champions look like amateurs. The ring general was not just a character. He was a force of nature. And WWE was building him to be one of the most dominant, most prestigious, most feared figures in the modern era of professional wrestling. And then Seth Rollins happened. Here's what you need to understand about Seth Rollins before we break down what happened on Raw. Seth is not just a great wrestler. Seth Rollins is the most psychologically complex character on the entire WWE roster. He's been a Shield member. He's been a messiah. He's been a visionary. He's been a hero, a villain, and everything in between. And no matter which version of Seth Rollins shows up, the man is always 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. So when the rumors started circulating weeks ago that Seth was recruiting, that Seth was building something, that there were masked figures appearing in dark corners of the arena, most people wrote it off. Just Seth being Seth. Just another theatrical entrance. Another ego trip from the visionary. They were wrong. Because what Seth Rollins was actually doing was constructing a machine, a weapon, a group of loyal, faceless soldiers whose only job was to serve one purpose: to help Seth Rollins tear down the one man standing between him and absolute dominance on Raw. That man was Gunther. The night it happened, Monday Night Raw, the arena was electric from the jump. Gunther had come out earlier in the evening and done exactly what you'd expect. He cut a promo dripping with superiority, looked down his nose at the entire audience, and made it crystal clear that he was the standard. He was the measuring stick. He was the ceiling. And then the lights changed. That music hit. That familiar, unhinged, chaotic energy filled the building. And Seth Rollins walked out. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, masked men, moving in formation. Faceless. Expressionless. An army in black, flanking the visionary like a general leading soldiers into the most important battle of his life. The crowd didn't know whether to cheer or to panic. And that confusion? That moment of wait, what is this? That was Seth's design. He didn't want a reaction. He wanted a reckoning. Gunther stood his ground. Because of course he did. This is Gunther. This is the man who stares down 6'6" monsters without blinking. He looked at Seth's masked entourage and didn't flinch. He squared up. He was ready. What he wasn't ready for was the chaos that followed. The attack was calculated to the second. Seth didn't charge in swinging wildly. This wasn't a hot-headed brawl. This was surgery. Seth kept Gunther engaged, kept his eyes locked on him, kept him focused while his masked men moved into position around the ring like pieces on a chessboard. And then the trap snapped shut. The distraction was all Seth needed. One moment of Gunther's attention breaking, just one, and Seth was on him like a predator. The curb stomp came out of nowhere. Then another. Then the masked men were in the ring, and it became a systematic dismantling, boot after boot. Every time Gunther tried to fight back, and he did fight back, because Gunther is not built to lay down, there was another masked figure cutting him off, holding him, positioning him for Seth to deliver the next blow. The ring general was being dethroned, live, on Raw, in front of the entire WWE universe. And the most chilling part? Seth Rollins was barely even breathing hard. He paced around Gunther's fallen body like a man who had already known the outcome for weeks. Because he had planned every second of this. And watching him stand over Gunther, looking down at the man who embodied dominance and power, Seth didn't celebrate wildly. He just smiled. That smile said everything. That smile said, I told you. I told all of you. Nobody is above me. Not even the ring general. Now here's where it gets complicated, and I need you to think about this. Was what Seth did wrong? I'm asking you directly. Because there's a very real argument to be made that Seth Rollins crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Using a group of hired hands to take down one man? That's not competition. That's not the visionary proving he's the best. That's a hit job. That's cowardice dressed up in theatrics. Gunther deserved a fight. One-on-one. Chest to chest. Best man wins. That's what the ring general represents. He's everything pure and brutal and honest about professional wrestling. You come at him straight. You earn your victory. You don't scheme your way to a win over a man like Gunther. And Seth knows that. Deep down, behind all the visionary brilliance, behind all the psychological game, Seth Rollins knows that what he did was the only way he could guarantee the outcome. And that is what makes this so infuriating. Because in destroying Gunther, Seth Rollins also told us something about himself, that when it comes down to it, he wasn't sure he could do it alone. And hear me out, this is exactly what makes Seth Rollins the greatest character in WWE today. Because great men don't just fight battles. They win wars. And winning wars requires strategy, requires resources, requires sacrifice. Seth didn't just beat Gunther. He ended a chapter. He closed a door. And he did it the only way a man of his intelligence would ever choose to do it, completely, and without leaving a single door open for Gunther to walk back through. I need you to tell me in the comments right now, was Seth right or was this cowardly? Don't be shy. I want the heat. This is Ring Rumble 1. We don't do soft takes here. Let's talk about the aftermath. Because this is where it gets even bigger. After the masked men retreated, after Seth stood tall, after the referees and officials finally flooded the ring to check on Gunther, the arena was silent in a way that arenas almost never are. That heavy, disbelieving silence where 20,000 people are trying to process what they just witnessed. Gunther was helped out of the ring slowly. And for the first time he looked like a man who had been broken. Not just physically. Something else. Something deeper. Because Gunther's entire identity, his entire reason for existing in that ring, is built on the premise that nobody can take what he's built from him. Nobody can erase what he is. Seth Rollins just put a massive crack in that foundation. And depending on how WWE books this going forward, that crack could either become the most compelling story of the year, Gunther rising from the ashes, hunting Seth and his masked men one by one, building to the most personal, most brutal one-on-one match we've seen in years, or this truly is the beginning of the end for the Ring General's dominant run. Either way, Monday Night Raw is a different show now. The power has shifted, and Seth Rollins is sitting at the very top of it. What does this mean for Raw going forward? Seth with an organized unit changes everything. Think about who's left on that roster that can realistically challenge a Seth Rollins backed by a group of enforcers. Sami Zayn? CM Punk? Cody Rhodes if he crosses over? Every single one of those programs just got exponentially more interesting because now there's a new element. You don't just have to beat Seth Rollins. You have to beat Seth Rollins and whatever army he brings with him. This is the kind of booking that creates long-term storylines. This is the kind of move that gives Raw on Netflix a centerpiece attraction for months. And if WWE plays this correctly, if they let this breathe, let the tension build, let the mystery of the masked men unravel slowly, this could be the best ongoing story in WWE in years. But WWE has to commit. No shortcuts. No rushed resolution. Let Seth be the unhinged, brilliant, dangerous villain that this angle is setting him up to be. Let Gunther's rage and his path back simmer at a slow burn. Give us the payoff we deserve. My final take. Seth Rollins just made himself the most dangerous man on Monday Night Raw. Not because of his athleticism, though that's undeniable. Not because of his mic work, though nobody's better. But because of his mind. Because he looked at the most dominant force on Raw, identified exactly how to bring him down, assembled the pieces, executed the plan without hesitation, and walked away standing tall. That's not just a wrestler. That's a villain for the ages. And Gunther? Gunther's story is not over. I refuse to believe that. The Ring General does not go quietly. He does not accept this. And whoever those masked men are, Seth better sleep with one eye open. Because when Gunther rebuilds, when he comes back with that fire in his eyes and those chops that could stop a heartbeat, Seth Rollins is going to need every single one of those masked soldiers. This is war. And Raw just became the most interesting show on television. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Hit that like button right now, share this with every wrestling fan you know, and drop your take in the comments. Was Seth Rollins a genius or a coward? Is Gunther done? Who are the masked men? This is Ring Rumble 1. We don't do casual. We go all in. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you in the next one.